What's up, good people? Episode 2 coming at you from the lapel mic. In the next couple of weeks, I have the space set up so you don't have to imagine my facial expressions when you hear my voice. Right now, I'm recording in the car. It's not professional. Who cares? It's just me yapping on a mic. Let's get to it a little bit. My pack had a bye week after that wacky tie with the Cowboys, and somehow the injury report grew longer, so that's cool, I guess. We get to play Joe Flacco again, and now he's got Chase and Higgins to throw to, so that should be fine, right? It's not like we just had a terrible defensive outing against Dak, and now you've got a 40-year-old dude with nothing to lose sling it. But we'll see how it goes. I'm still excited. Regardless, I'm always riding for the green and gold. Go Pack Go. I told you that in episode 1. Never going to deviate. If you saw me on Facebook, I made lamb the other day for the first time, and it was delicious. I mean, I'm just trying to find ways to diversify the protein sources. Chicken thighs, ground beef and turkey, pork tenderloin, shrimp starting to get old. I can cook, so the food always tastes good, but a little diversity and protein inclusion can't really hurt. So expanding my horizons and cook some lamb. I love lamb when I buy it. The first time actually cooking it. All right, that's enough of rambling. Let's get into a little bit about what I want to talk about today. If you got some time and don't mind, if I may speak for a moment. I've got some cool science to go over, some more wackiness from Arkham Asylum, aka the White House, and a little aside about Maya Angelou and vanilla ice cream, and why I'm craving something a little bit more from some of my friends that's a little bit more important to me. Let's dig into it. Operation Midway Blitz. By now, you've probably seen or heard about the escalation of violence in Chicago. ICE is wilding out. They're treating the city like a war zone, and they're trying to shock and awe their way through a big Democrat-led city. Trump is calling for the jailing of the mayor and the governor, and that's a real escalation. That's something that we should all be aware of and terrified of, really, especially given how vengeful this regime has been proven to be, with them trying to force charges on people that dare oppose them or people that have opposed them in the past, or firing people that have said negative things about them. So, you should be aware of that. And then you got your boy Joey Goebbels' number one fan, Stephen Miller. He got on TV and damn near bust a nut when he said Trump had plenary powers. And then CNN had the nerve to air an edited version or reshoot of that interview to try to clean it up. To be very clear, plenary powers are absolute powers. No ifs, ands, or buts. Singular authority. Not something anyone has in our constitutional framework, and not how it should be interpreted that way either. Hell, you can't even mandate what states do to prevent consolidation of power. The federal government, due to the 10th Amendment, cannot take over and tell a state what to do. Just can't. 10th Amendment says the powers not delegated to the United States by the Constitution, nor prohibited by it to the states, are reserved to the states respectively or to the people. That means things not explicitly given to the federal are reserved to the states and to the people. So not only can the federal government not tell states what to do, they can't tell them what not to do. And that's actually been confirmed recently by the Supreme Court. You can look at the case from the Professional and Amateur Sports Protection Act that was preventing states from authorizing sports gambling. The court came back and said that the anti-commandeering rule was violated by that law because that would put state legislatures under direct control of Congress. Justice Alito even said that the anti-commandeering doctrine only applies to affirmative congressional commands, as opposed to when Congress prohibits certain state action. So he made it clear that the distinction between affirmative requirements and prohibitions was empty, and that the court should hold that both types of commands equally intrude on state interests. That means they can't tell you what to do and they can't tell you what not to do from the federal. The states themselves do not fall under congressional rule. They have their own infrastructure, their own legislature, their own rules. There are federal rules, and then there are states' rules and rights. That plenary power is not something that the president has access to, and it's not something that they should even be hinting at unless they're tired of our democracy and ready for full-on autocracy. Go ahead and name Trump king at this point. No kings allowed in America, man. At some point, we're going to start dumping tea. I mean, at some point we have to. There's not enough marching and protesting and civil disobedience and and acting right and lawsuits that will matter at some point, especially with the escalating violence. What they're doing with ICE right now in Chicago and what they're doing to peaceful protesters is walking up and bear spraying them. They shot a pastor in the head the other day with pepper bullets, and you can hear them in the recordings of it laughing as they do it, as he's out there praying with people. The violence is escalating. They are abducting people off the streets. They are arresting folks, crashing into their vehicles, attacking them with drawn weapons. They lied on the woman that said crashed her car into the ICE vehicle. In fact, the footage came out and they crashed into her, dared her to do something, pulled a gun on her, and fired. Not only that, they didn't also render aid. She had to go to the hospital on her own after being shot by ICE. It's crazy, y'all. It is absolutely insane. The violence has escalated so much that we are beyond cold civil war. The rhetoric about jailing governors and mayors and stuff is part of a cold civil war. Texas sending their National Guard to another state to impose the will of the king. All of that stuff is part of a cold civil war. There's actually been no shots fired between states. But the war now is between the federal and the constituents, between the citizens of the country, and it's going to escalate. It's going to. Prepare yourselves, prepare your family accordingly. I know that's heavy and dark, but it's about to get heavier and darker. By now, you've probably heard about Kingsley Benpong, Minnesota postal worker left to die because of racism. Black man with dreads having a medical emergency, and instead of doing their damn jobs, the specialist who was supposed to check in the field to see if he was on drugs or if he was having a medical event decided it was a waste of time to do so. It's not conjecture. That's not me just putting a narrative to it. This is actually what was recorded of the man saying on body cam. Kingsley was driving the wrong way on the road, and the police stopped him. When they pull up to him as the suspect to see what's going on, he's extremely disoriented. You can see it in the video. They ask him, does he know where he's at, where he's coming from, all this information. Can't answer any of it. He looks out of it. So they bring the specialist in to check to see if he is under the influence of drugs or having a medical emergency. One of the things that we should absolutely be doing, and when you hear people talk about defunding the police, it's partly what they mean. They don't mean taking money from the police and getting rid of the police. They mean reallocating resources to people like this specialist who can help de-escalate situations and get people the help they need. In this case, a black man, a large black man with dreadlocks, acting disoriented was a waste of time to do this check. So they jailed him. And the footage came out of him in the jail. They falsified the check-ins. He's on the ground in cuffs, covered in his own urine, rolling around, uncontrolled, having a hard time. And by the time someone actually got him to a hospital, actually realized something was wrong, he was brain dead. They let a man die because he was a bigger black man with dreads driving the wrong way on the road, clearly confused when they pulled him over. And the specialist said, no need to test him for a medical emergency. It'd be just a waste of time. To my white friends, I need you to hear this. I'm tired of seeing or hearing I don't see color, or the comments on every social post or in real conversations where they take every complaint from black folks as self-victimization. I hear it and see it all the time. Of course, there are folks who will do that. They're going to try to capitalize on situations and make it come up, make people feel uncomfortable, get something from them by playing the victim card. Every culture, every race, every gender, everyone does that. There are bad actors that play off of prejudices to try to make situations in their favor, trying to turn them in their favor. But if you ever think black folks are just seeking racism and things to complain, I want you to look up what Maya Angelou had to say about vanilla ice cream. Take your time and go look it up. And it may be a sort of a myth. It may just be passed down in voice traditions, and there might not be any documentation of it that says this. But black families, older black families, have a large portion of their populations that love butter pecan ice cream. Could be a folk tale. But what Maya Angelou had to say about vanilla ice cream was that black folks in the South were dealing with folks that were so racist they couldn't have vanilla ice cream except for on July 4th. Yeah, couldn't have vanilla ice cream except for on July 4th. And that's from Why the Cage Bird Sings. And that could just be, a rhetoric from her to express how racist things were that we weren't allowed to have even something white as a dessert. But I want to be clear, things like that exist. As we just talked about with Kingsley Benpong, a black man in clear medical distress was not considered worthy of the treatment that he was supposed to have because it would be a waste of time. Not seeing color doesn't mean shit to me. Until the systems and powers in this country are also indifferent to color in practice and not just in theory, saying you don't see color means nothing to me. You saying we're all just humans and we should see the humanity in one another is fine and true. We should absolutely do that. But unless you're actively contributing to the dismantling of systems that allow men to die because some officer says it would just be a waste of time to do the right thing, don't really want to hear it or read it or see it. It's a waste. I'm going to let this breathe for a moment. Just for a moment. Because that's heavy, dark, not something that people want to really think about. I need you to sit with that for a moment. Go back and replay those last 2 or 3 minutes where I've been talking. Sit with that. Talk to me about it. Same thing with like social media posts. I get it. Everyone doesn't want to have their timeline filled with politics. They don't want to have their timelines filled with negative things. The algorithm is a reinforcing loop. If you post negativity, talk about negativity, it brings you more negativity. I get it. We are in a real fight, folks. We are in a legitimate fight against white supremacy. And this is your first opportunity, some of y'all that aren't 70, 80 years old, to actually help in the fight against white supremacy, because that's what this is. Anything else is a lie. It's a misdirection to try to redirect your attention to something else. This is straight from the authoritarian playbook with white nationalism, white supremacy as the foundation. You can look up what the Nazis said about what they learned and how they decided to commit the genocide that they did. They studied American Jim Crow. And here we are again in 2025, big 2025, reliving the removal of black people from positions of authority, removing the protections for African Americans, removing the protections for women. It is a class thing for sure. It's absolutely a class thing, but the motor, the engine behind it is white supremacy. There's many quotes out there that says if you give a poor white person someone to look down on, they'll do anything for you. It comes with class. That's where it starts. It starts with economics. It starts with economics. But you use supremacy, white nationalism, racism as the engine that drives the vehicle. And that's heavy. I'm going to let that sit for a minute. It's not all dark. Let's move on to some science. MIT scientists have developed a conductive concrete that is capable of conducting electricity. It can store and release electrical energy. That's something that could take our roads, our buildings, our bridges, and could turn them into large energy storage systems. They basically take electrolytes and nanocarbon and directly mix them into the concrete mix, allowing that concrete itself to conduct electricity. It's the same thing that we should be doing with like solar panels. The roofs of large parking lots, the roofs of schools, the roofs of a lot of these buildings that have a lot of square footage available to the sky should have solar panels on them. We should be taking advantage of solar energy to generate electricity, feeding it back into the grid, lowering costs for everyone. It can be done. And stuff like this, electrically conductive concrete, are the future to clean energy. And I know we don't really care about clean energy anymore, but if we care about this earth at all, If the ruling class would like to have somewhere to rule, at some point they're going to have to pay attention to that. Then you got a Swiss company called Panettiere. They have the world's first solar powered steel recycling furnace. They used a bunch of mirrors, concentrated them into a certain place, and the temperatures can get up to over 2,000 degrees Celsius. It can melt steel in under 2 hours, and they're aiming to produce 1,000 tons of fossil free solar steel annually by 2028, harnessing the power of the sun to melt down steel, to create steel, to recycle steel without using any fossil fuels. It's amazing. All this human life that we've been talking about comes from science. All right? God, science. Science is the way to explain God, is how I've continually expressed that. We understand that DNA and RNA have adenine, thymine, guanine, cytosine, uracil, nucleotides that create the genetic material that lead to everything else. Well, guess where we found those nucleotides? NASA in 2023, the NASA OSIRIS-REx spacecraft collected a sample of the asteroid Bennu and brought it back to Earth. Since that happened, scientists have been studying and analyzing those materials, trying to find out what's going on in those fragments, what those materials are, and guess what they discovered? The raw ingredients for what we consider life on Earth. Adenine, thymine, guanine, cytosine, uracil, ammonia, amino acids, aldehydes, ketones, carboxylic acid. Excuse me. Carboxylic acid is what we use to form cellular membranes. All of this was found on a space rock. And this isn't the first time we've discovered these things, but this is the first time we've discovered these things in the quantities that we've discovered them. And also, because we've discovered them in the past and we've changed methodologies for recovering these materials from these extraterrestrial objects, we've reduced the likelihood that this discovery is a result of human contamination. They've created new methods that allow the space shuttle to recover these, and they've also taken the time to compare the materials recovered from this to the materials used in the spacecraft to determine that things like the ammonia don't match the type that were used in the spacecraft. So, human life as we know it may have originated from space. So, the whole aliens thing, maybe we're the aliens? What do you think? There's a lot going on, folks. I know it could be overwhelming. There's a lot of things going on. For my folks that are dealing with the government shutdown, for my furloughed workers, there is a community out there. Our state in particular, Maryland, is doing some things to help you. Please look up and use those resources. There's no amount of pride that should allow you to not seek help. And in the community, there's places like gyms and restaurants that are offering discounts for their furloughed workers or free access to the gym. We got to lean on each other right now. The battle for this government reopening is a real one. It is a legitimate issue. The healthcare subsidies that are slated to expire are going to explode people's costs. They're taking advantage of this, and the Grim Reaper is doing this thing to try to lay off more people to cut down on the size of the federal government. The president has come out and said he's going to target Democrat programs. This, folks, is not normal. This is not the U.S. government. This is not how we're supposed to be governed and run. It's not normal. And we have to stick together. We have to realize that it's us versus them. Us being the citizens, them being the oligarchs, technocrats that are trying to take over and remake America in their image. It's us versus them. It really is. And until we unify and come together and realize that and stop pointing at one another, we'll never be able to do anything. So for all my furloughed workers that are dealing with not receiving their paychecks, for all my military folks that are having to go to collect food, to feed their families because they're working, for all my folks at TSA that are not coming to work anymore because they're not being paid, I'm with you. I stand with you. Any resources that I come across, I'll make sure I share. But we're in for a long haul, y'all. They've dug in. I don't see any way that this ends in the short term without some massive concessions or some other bombshell, like something related to the Epstein files, that forces the Republicans that aren't MAGA but have to this point sided completely with MAGA for them to split away and try to reclaim the Republican Party from these far, far, far right radicals. And side note, there's a whole cemetery full of Antifa. Um, we're very proud of that cemetery. We talk about it all the time. It's one of our national landmarks. There are special people there that take care of that site. So if President Trump has an issue with Antifa, um, I hope those graves cry out to him every night because we fought an entire war as Antifa. You dumbass. Donald Trump is terrible. Lamb chops are delicious. Human life might have come from space dust. And go Pack Go. Episode 2, y'all. I love y'all. Like, share, subscribe on Patreon. I got more things coming. I got interviews coming that I've been working on in the background. The content is going to change and grow. I love y'all for listening. Peace.